All right. I know some of us are still finding our seats. Sorry, we are really packed in here like sardines. Holy cow. Thank you everyone who is showing their shining faces. Hi, I'm not even gonna get a chance to say hi to you. Thank you everyone who made the trek out. We may get some really cool thunder lightning action happening off the coast. So lucky you guys made it before it started to rain. Thank you also to those who navigated the reschedule with the snowstorm. I know that was sudden and it was very short notice. So for this turnout with a week of change, I just appreciate you guys so much. How's the Zoom doing? Can you guys hear us okay? Is our volume all right? I always like to check because sometimes we're super quiet. I got it loud and clear. Yes. Okay, great. Awesome. It is now. Can we do will the front lights dim at all? Just to give us some shadow. Wow. I truly can't believe the turnout tonight. You guys rock. This is awesome. I am getting feedback behind me. Is that okay? Is it because this one isn't muted, possibly? Hello? Hello. Is the mic on? Mm-hmm. Yep. Is this one picking up on the mic? Mm-hmm. Okay. Does this have to be on? This does have to be on for this. Okay. It might just be an echo. Let's try this one really quick. Sure. Sorry, guys. Okay. Ooh. Is that okay with everyone? Can you hear me okay? It's weird to like be talking but hear your voice behind you. Cool. All right, so I think the Zoom can still hear us. Let me figure out what I'm gonna do with this guy. All right, well, welcome everybody to a very wonderful celebration of our Catch the King 2024 event. I think this might possibly be my biggest turnout for the volunteer appreciation event. So I want you guys to first give everyone an applause. This is great. For those who don't know me, my name is Gabby Kinney. I am the assistant director at Wetlands Watch. That's a new title for myself, so some people might have project manager. With me today is Josie Shostak, who was our 2024 Catch the King assistant. Josie is in the back. And we also have Mary Carson Stipp, who will give a special introduction to Yes. We wanted to make sure all could be included. Okay, I think we're good. Rocking and rolling. Alrighty, so we have a really exciting program today. If you haven't already seen it, we've got an arts gallery off to my left. So as you guys leave the building today, check out the wonderful artworks high schoolers across the coastal Virginia area. And we're gonna feature some awards later on in our presentation. So super exciting agenda for you guys today. Oh no. Now my clicker doesn't want to work. You just do. Oh yeah, I can probably do keyboard. Maybe. Okay, we'll do keyboard. I'm usually a very motion presenter, so this is gonna be tough for me. So on our agenda today, of course, as you guys came in, I hope many of you got to see the art gallery, but again, feel free to check it out before you leave. We're gonna do a bit of a welcome and introduction. So there'll be a welcome to the Brock Environmental Center, but we'll also run through the Wetlands Watch team who are with us today. And then a little bit later on, you guys will get introductions to our coordination team, Catch the King partners, who have really been here since the start. This was a group effort and a group community science program that was built right here in Hampton Roads. So we're excited to have kind of our core partners with us here today. So we'll have ourselves do about a 10-minute presentation, giving you an overview of everything that happened during the 2020 Catch the King event. We'll toss it over to the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, Dr. Derek Loftus, who is in the room with food. And we'll have him present on Catch the King data. And we'll have some folks from Old Dominion University. Is Margie here? I did not see her. Hi, Margie. Dr. Margaret Mulholland and Alyssa Bucci is here to talk about Measure the Muck, so a tangent water quality collecting program that they do at Catch the King. Then we're going to go around the room for those who we have spoken to over email and over meetings, 1 to 2 minute intros to what you can. We have a couple folks in the room who will stand up and share their experiences. We have a couple slides from volunteers as well. I think the Catch the King story is best told from you guys, so we ask for feedback all the time, but I think it's really important that those in the room who may have never participated in Catch the King before or have a different experience, I think it's a great opportunity for them to share, to hear others share about their own Catch the King experiences. We'll do, after that, an arts contest awards ceremony. And I'm gonna not spoil any of the details for you there, but it's a very exciting first annual award ceremony that we'll have. And then we'll kind of have time towards the end. I know we got a few minutes late start, and that was just to give some folks time for the traffic. So we may end a little bit earlier than that, but there will be an opportunity to kind of float and do Q&A at the end. So there won't be a formal Q&A session. But all of the presenters will be in the room, so feel free to come up to us and ask questions right at the end. Just want to make sure everybody gets out in time. Also, if you haven't seen the laminated piece of paper that's floating around on the tables, if you want to take that art gallery home with you, if you have a student who submitted or they want to see some sort of published version of their work, likewise for those on Zoom, if you want to check out the gallery that we have here in person at the Brock Center, we've put it all in a virtual gallery and you can scan that QR code on the screen to access it. So I'll give it just a second. I think most people have done it already who want it. Cool. All right, so I already introduced myself. Josie, do you want to give a quick intro of yourself?
And I'm the assistant outreach coordinator for Catch the King this past year. I graduated from College Charleston May, and I'm on my way to grad school for this next lifestyle merit for back. And this is my first year at Wetlands Watch, and it's been an incredible experience.
She also has 2 grad school applications that have been approved. Go Josie. So we're excited for her. Yeah. And then we also have Mary Carson Stiff, the executive director of Wetlands Watch here. Do you want to say a few words?
We are so glad that you all are participating in Catch the King. And we hope that for many, many years that we are just getting started. So thank you.
Awesome. That's definitely the theme. We are just getting started with this work. There's a lot of exciting things we're going to talk about today. So next I'm going to toss it over to Christy Everett, who's going to give you just a quick introduction to the Brock Environmental Center. I can actually probably just hand this. Maybe.
We tethered together. Welcome everyone. Christy Everett, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. My colleague Chris Moore is here in the back, and Liz Gathigan, the audio tech guru, is around as well. But just wanted to welcome you to Brock Center. If you've not been here before, there's a few stats up there, but our energy is produced, the turbines, you can really see those spinning today, or solar on the roof. We produce about 60 to 80% more energy than we use. The water, if you're drinking water, here is from rainwater. And we've got lots of fun facts that the building can do, not only for reducing carbon footprint, but also, of course, water quality and habitat. So hopefully you'll get a tour at some point. We've got free tours. Just let us know if you want to sign up for those. And I just want to celebrate you all. Thank you all, not only for being here tonight, but also for all you're doing to help note where sea level is rising and help tell that story so others can not only be aware and prepared, but just help prevent those future issues. So appreciate you all being here and all you do, and let us know if you need anything from Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Thrilled to be part of this.
Thank you, Christy. All right. Yeah, if you have not had a chance to check out the grounds at the Brock Center, there's a ton of trails out here into the marshland. Highly recommend it on a beautiful sunny afternoon like we had today. So it's a beautiful recreation opportunity. So I'm going to kick us off with a little bit of, did have speaker notes and now they've disappeared on me. Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about setting the stage for what we experienced last year with Catch the King. So what you're looking at, and I'm going to try to get this video to play. So what we experienced in terms of flooding in 2024, what an unprecedented year, right? Flooding stats out there. On this slide, you're seeing two very different flood events that many in this room may recognize, both extreme. On the left is a picture of predicted and recorded water level data at Norfolk. And for those who don't know, this is one of our state's oldest running tidal gauges. I looked it up. It's at 1927. And I'm going to keep that video rolling because it is just, and it's a little pixelated. Sorry about that. I had to screen cap this one, but credit is given where credit is due. For those unfamiliar, the tide gauge on the left, this is a public data portal operated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. And you can check anytime you want to know when high water is expected by going to this portal. So they have a tides and currents webpage, and you can go check out tidal gauges in your area. This is one of the ways that we actually use to determine the dates for Catch the King. So we go in and check out the predicted high water levels through this portal. In this case, the blue line demonstrates the water levels that were predicted. We've pulled out September 12th through October 12th, 2024. This covers our Catch the King event last year. The green lines are the actual recorded data, so predicted versus recorded. And we can honestly see that what we experienced on the ground completely blew those out of the water, pun fully. As many of us who live in this area know, we experienced an unprecedented 19-day stretch of high water within this time frame that brought flooding to the streets of many of our Hampton Roads communities, not unlike the Catch the King scenes that we see year after year. As many of us, I lost my place. This is why we study the king tide season, to better understand what stretches of water like this means for our communities experiencing their effects almost daily. On the right, we'll play that one more time in case you didn't see it, is a visual model of the devastating Hurricane Helene. And you can see just how long this storm built, how long it sat, and how much land it covered as it made its way up the eastern US coast. This is a great time to emphasize that the increased flood risks we're experiencing as a result of climate change are not just coastal and tidal, but our mountain and riverine communities are also dealing with these unpredictable monster storms that dump immense amounts of rainfall into highly localized steep terrain areas, causing all sorts of chaos from flash flooding to mudslides. So really devastating flood events. Our friends in Appalachia are still recovering from this storm, so these recovery efforts are ongoing and will be and alongside state efforts to expand the Coastal Resilience Master Plan into a statewide flood protection master plan that encompasses rainfall flooding as well as those sea level rise hazards, Wetlands Watch is working across Virginia to understand and support local governments through adaptation strategies that risks and move people, infrastructure, and our wetlands out of harm's way before those disasters happen, or really before they get any worse. So that's just a snapshot of something that we experienced last year, but these are things that we're tracking year after year. This is a trend. These things are only growing. Next up, we're going to have a couple of slides with videos from our very own Skip Stiles, which is a surprise. Last year, during this high tide flood event, Skip and his wife, Margie, were out in the field almost every day collecting high water. And lucky for me, I have Skip content to share with you all.
So we're here at Harbor Park in Norfolk. Maybe we wanted to go to the game, but maybe we don't want to go to the game. Besides, where the heck are we going to find parking? Because this lot is full, adding a whole new meaning to what it is to have a full parking lot.
Thank you, Skip, by the way. There's 3 slides with your voice on it. So signs and scenes from this flood event. We're going to have...
So we're here at Harbor Park in Norfolk.
One more.
It's trash pickup day in this neighborhood in Norfolk. But as you can see, it looks like the Elizabeth River is the thing that's actually picking up all of the trash. This is about 4.5, 5 feet of tidal water. No storm overhead, wind coming from the northeast for the last few days. It's been like this for much of the last week. This is what living with the water is really like here in Norfolk.
Who else saw this kind of level of water inundation in their... during the events last year. Yeah, so this is heart of Norfolk. So we get a lot of volunteers in this area. This is where our organization was born. This is where Catch the King was born. So these sites are real. And as someone who is from a teeny tiny mountain valley community, that I don't recall a single road sign that said this street may flood. Seeing these sites now as a professional is really just disheartening and makes this work way more important. So what did we do about it, right? So we're all here to learn about what we did through Catch the King. We held multiple training events, and this is what we do each year. We hold training events across the Hampton Roads and continuously expanding as much as we can with extra staff support. And so this year we held 11 training events, and what you're looking at is a map that shows both training events and our tide captain stations, whether that was formally during the Catch the King event or if a tide captain held their own training event. So we got a good bit of spread this year. So lots of folks down in the Hampton Roads area. We stretched all the way up to the Middle Peninsula and even out on the Eastern Shore this year, which is really exciting. As for the complete total results of Catch the King, there's a couple of stats here that I'll just quickly run over. When you're looking at this graphic here on the left, it's really important to note that even though we call out the number of pins inside each community, the number of pins isn't always the most important statistic to draw, right? You want quality data to come out of this program as much as you want lots of data to come out of it. So just know that for those who might not have mapped this many pins, does not mean your data is not important. It does not mean we don't look at it. It does not mean that it's not high quality. So truly what we're looking for is both lots of volunteers and lots of folks out on the ground, but also really good quality data to help folks like Derek Loftus at VIMS to do the research that we're doing. So total, we had 22,845 pins. That's compared to 13,000 last year. That's like almost really, really cool. 187 volunteers, 120 last year, so we're growing. And Norfolk had the most data, but of course that's where I add my little asterisk of just because Norfolk, that it is the only area that has the most quality statistics that come out of it. Our top mappers who mapped with over 500 pins are these folks here. Is anyone on this list? We've got one. Sweet. Well, hey, thank you for coming, and thank you so much for the incredible effort and lots of pins. Awesome. Let's go, John. Woo-hoo. I also like to show just a little bit of a screen cap of data from, and hitting that note that quality data is just as good as volume of data. We got a lot of really awesome data sets. And if I walk away, people aren't going to hear me, but the mic's coming with me. So you can see all sorts of different types of mapping. We've got some urban setting, we've got some coastal, we've got a little more urban here. So all sorts of different shorelines and places that people are finding flooding through the Catch the King program. Another really cool thing that we did this year, and this is going to be just kind of rapid fire overview of what we did. So a program that we've been kind of scheming about for a couple of years is actually partnering with a group called South Wings. Is anyone from South Wings in the room really quick? I know one or two of their team members are around here. So this is a collage of photos that we took during aerial king tide monitoring in 2020. So we went up in a plane with a pilot program, and these are volunteer pilots who do things for environmental organizations. Go up in the air and they monitor environmental impacts from the sky. So of course, what a perfect opportunity for us. We've had some drone monitoring in the past for Catch the King, which has been awesome. But we decided to get a little higher in the sky this time, and we sent a lot of our core coordination as well as our Wetlands Watch staff to collect pictures. I specifically went on a trip out to the Eastern Shore, but we had some circles around the Norfolk area. So feel free to check those out. We've got 2 folders here full of photos. Lathan Gumas, who is a photographer and kind of photojournalist for Virginia Sea Grant, has a whole gallery of photos. And then Josie as well, our very own Josie Shostak, is a photographer. She has a whole library of pictures as well, so you can check those out. Of course, it wouldn't be a celebration without celebrating our partners. So thank you to all those who are in the room today. A collage of all of the folks who get involved with this work, whether it be sharing information on newsletters, helping us recruit volunteers, becoming tide captains. We had a good handful of new tide captains this year, so I want to say a huge thank you to those folks. And on the left, you're also seeing a wonderful article written by Joel Rubin, who a newsletter pretty renowned in this area called Wednesdays. Does anybody get the Wednesdays newsletter? If you don't, you should. It's a wonderful newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. And we had a beautiful spotlight in that this year. So thank you to Joel for that. Some other things that we got up to is we're trying to partner more with local government and state agencies. So we have a really great relationship with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. This is a lot of the work that we do through flood resilience, local government technical assistance and outreach, and the flood resilience world as a whole. So we have great relationships with them, and we wanted to put one step forward in our Catch the King program to highlight, and if you go into the Sea Level Rise app now, you will see this. There's a link to a Share Your Flood Story survey, and DCR is collecting all sorts of information. If you are someone who experiences those flood events, if you're someone who maps in your own neighborhood and you've got stories to share about how you interact with flooding, DCR wants to know, and that can help inform their statewide flood resilience master plan. So feel free to check that out. We also did a really exciting pilot program with the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission called, we called it Adopt a Sensor, and Emma Corbett is in the room with us who helped us design some of these materials. We're gonna try to continue to do this as much as we can. So if you're interested in this, essentially what we did was design a protocol for those with a tide gauge in their neighborhood that the HRPDC had installed, would go out during a flood event and verify what that sensor was collecting. So checking in on the technology, making sure it's functioning, checking the online web portal to make sure it was collecting good data, and then also taking pictures of the flooding at the base of the sensor. So we're hoping to continue that. This would be an ongoing year-round program, so you can check that sensor any time of year, not just Catch the King. So if you're looking for more opportunities to volunteer, this is one really great opportunity. I also like to just very quickly show the comparison of our 2017 Guinness record-breaking year versus the current year. I always bring this up because I like to say that we had over 700 volunteers this year, right? This is what broke us that world record. But we have grown so much with this program and from this outreach and growing the awareness of the work that we're doing through Catch the King. That's not all on us. That's also because of your wonderful outreach and engagement in your own neighborhoods. So just checking it out, we of course had a ton of local efforts in the Hampton Roads, Lower Hampton Roads area, but we're now expanding all the way out to the Eastern Shore. This is a little bit more zoomed out from the VIMS model, which Derek will present on a little bit later. But the larger these pins means the more data that's there. So as you zoom in, that data kind of fans out. We also have a Google map displaying the 2024 map that we'll use as a guide for volunteers in 2025. So you can check out where data was collected the year prior. So you can see, oh, maybe I want to collect data and help fill in that gap that someone didn't get last year. Or maybe I want to go to a site that someone was at last year because the data looked interesting. So we will have this map. It's available right now, but we will add flood locations on top of it, just like we did in 2024, to show you guys where you can volunteer this year. And then what would we be without photos of all of our volunteers and the photos that you guys collect? We shared this in one of our newsletters. Josie made a beautiful collage of some of the photos that you guys are taking. This is of course not all of it. We collected over like hundreds of photos this year, as we do pretty much every year. And that's what goes a long way. Those visual flooding and sea level rise help us as an organization communicate, but also just share in what is happening in your own community. So thank you for submitting all of those photos to help validate the data that you're collecting. And there's another little collage. There was way too many to pick, so I just had to do 2 slides. So next up, we're going to toss it over to our partners. Derek, you are up first. And so I'm going to pull up his presentation. I'm going to hand you this.
Thank you very much for that introduction. really excited that you're all able to be here. I know rescheduling the event makes things difficult, and it just really shows how important this particular issue is for all of us. Now, Catch the King, of course, this is kind of its 8th year, and this is kind of in a background video showing some happening on October 20th. That was one of the last days that we did one of these aerial surveys, but this is a roadway in Poquoson that frequently experiences tidal inundation. And so these are one of the things that we use to help validate the tidal flood forecasts that are coming from the Tide Watch model produced by the Center for Coastal Resources Management, where I work at the Virginia Institute of Science. So thank you all for being here today and for all of the data that you've allowed us to kind of better understand what's going on in the world, that information. Now, of course, Catch the King is really a form of community science collection and collaboration. A lot of the data that you've helped us kind of collect and verify allows us to kind of effectively visualize tomorrow's flooding today. You know, the core idea behind Catch the King, when Skip Stiles and Dave Mayfield kind of collaborated together with myself to kind of put this program together, allowed us to kind of expediently expand the number of people that are helping us capture information of inundation throughout, not just the Commonwealth, but even beyond. And what is exciting about that really is that we're getting new information in new places. We previously hadn't been able to verify, you know, what the inundation conditions were in different places. And so beyond just the GPS data points and the pictures that you're collecting, this allows us to kind of validate the flood forecast models that I helped develop at the Virginia Institute of Science. And so from our inaugural year in 2017, each year we're collecting new data in places. And of course, the beauty of this is that not only are we collecting new data in new places that we hadn't previously mapped before, but we're also consistently still mapping a lot of the same places every single year that are giving us enough information to produce these new data-driven models where your information from Catch the King, for example, in Norfolk's Hague, for example, we collected a lot of data even since the alpha versions of the Sea Level Rise app developed by Wetlands Watch. And so while there are only a handful of people collecting data in the first years that the app was available, it wasn't until about 2017, the first year that we started Catch the King, in collaboration with our media partners, that really allowed us to make this happen and blow this up to an extent that now we're able to validate our model in more than just the handful of stations that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration possesses, or those that are maintained by the U.S. Geological Survey, but also those that are maintained by localities through the Storm Sense program. And so in each of these individual spots that are shown here, you kind of see an overlay of all the original data. And of course, again, as Josie and Gabby had pointed out earlier, all of these points are more or less proportionally sized based on the amount of data that they represent year by year. And so we collected a lot of data on the Eastern Shore and Cape Charles and some of the other areas that we hadn't previously collected in the past, along with several along the Potomac River Basin. So we're kind of excited to see where we've been able to validate the model in new places. One of the things that's been a big help for us is being able to kind of produce this tidal flooding calendar to give people at least at a glance an idea of which days are most likely to be circumstances where the sun and the moon, for in terms of gravitational forces, can kind of provide these conditions conducive for tidal inundation. And then beyond that, people can kind of reference the individual or nearby for tidal stations and be able to extract information of particular relevance to them. Now, this past year is the first year that we've done 4 days. Last year was the first year we did a week for Catch the King. And so 4 days this year means that we spread the data out pretty effectively. So on Thursday, the 17th, we had 55 people collect nearly 4,000 GPS high water marks and 111 pictures that were particularly useful for us to help kind of validate and georeference what's happening at different places from not just an aerial perspective, where we're kind of looking at these from these aerial surveys like the video beginning, but we also have, in some cases, we compared a lot of the data that had been collected with planet data, basically high temporal resolution satellite imagery. The beauty of blue sky flooding is that there's oftentimes not a ton of clouds overhead. It's not storm-driven inundation, it's tidal flooding. And so as a result, that allows us to see through clouds, or there's usually not clouds in the way at all, but actually allow us to validate data in additional ways than beyond just the information that you're collecting through the Sea Level Rise app. So we found on Friday, there were 53 people that collected nearly 4,000 GPS high water marks that day as well. And then on Saturday, the 19th, 101 people collected 10,000 GPS high water marks. And then on Sunday, 67 people collected 5,000 GPS high water marks, adding up to this total of 22,845 high water marks collected across all the localities this year. This is exciting. So this is more than last year, but at the same time, it's more new places than last year as well. So this gives us more information to help validate these flood forecast models. And it's not just during the King Tide weekends. We also had a variety of other events. For example, in March, we had a high water event from the 24th to the 26th, where 11 map 785 high water marks during that event in March during spring tidal flooding. Also, we had the wet run events. We collected nearly 2,000 GPS high water marks on the 19th of September. And again, on the 22nd, we had a separate high water event created by extratropical storm surge. And so as we're looking at all of these different types of events, it allows us to not just take the information and help validate forecast models. We also work with localities and planning district commissions. For example, in the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission, we're using data that have been collected by a lot of our volunteers to help site new water level sensors in these areas. There's one by the U.S. Geological Survey, kind of in the middle of Mob Jack Bay, but there's one to the south in Yorktown near Gloucester Point to the VIMS campus, and one further up to the north at Windmill Point. But there's a lot of other places where a lot of tidal inundation is happening in a lot of rural localities in the eastern Virginia Tidewater area. And so as a result, we've been using this information to help us select individual sites that are of particular interest. Not just with the data that have helped us verify that these are places that inundation is happening, but also seeing that it might be useful to have additional information to provide us insights on what we should expect to see, not just during high flooding and conditions, but also year round. And so with that information, it kind of takes us to a couple of new steps. In this case, not just with the data that we've been able to collect and capture during the King Tide flooding events, but also as well. Now, in the past years, we've noticed that the media has been a big component of driving engagement in these types of events. And so we've been excited to see how these things kind of work, even back to our inaugural year in 2017. We realized that engagement and a lot of the different resources that we kind of put out there to let people know where's tidal flooding happening, where can you help us the most in terms of collecting data, and then where and when to be during these types of events, have been particularly helpful. And so we'd like to thank HRSD and AECOM as being sponsors again. And of course, the Baton Environmental Education Initiative. In 2024, we also have a lot of our sponsors that have helped us, not just in this year, but in years past, including the WHRO Public Media, Virginian Pilot, and the Daily Press, along with the Virginia Commonwealth Center for Recurrent Flooding Resiliency. Now, a lot of this information kind of in our inaugural year was particularly helpful in garnering the Guinness World Record for being the world's largest environmental survey. And yes, we are still that, which is exciting. But it's not just necessarily about that. It's also the information since our inaugural year and the years prior to that, that the Sea Level Rise app was developed in alpha and beta. In each of these cases, we usually like to share a lot of the different locations that have long-term monitoring stations. Provides tidal forecasts, and then as Gabby showed in her presentation, well, the water levels were higher than that. And so while we select these particular weekends as the periods of the year where the highest astronomical tides exist, wind, rain, and a variety of other different influences can also further exacerbate conditions. And so this is what helps validate tools like the hydrodynamic model SCISM that is the backbone behind the tide science. Now, this model is a 36-hour flood forecast model. It predicts storm tides, so storm surge and tides, throughout Virginia's coastal plain up to 36 hours in advance. And this tool is particularly useful, mostly because as it kind of produces these tidal forecasts, it allows you to kind of zoom in and zoom out in an interactive field of reference. In this case, it's using ArcGIS Online to be able to do this effectively everywhere in Virginia's Tidewater region at roughly 1 meter or 3 foot spatial resolution. And of course, the utility behind this is that it's got a background of LiDAR data that's providing us these insights from an elevation assumption perspective. And a lot of what the data that are being by volunteers with Catch the King are helping us understand is that where some of these elevation assumptions may not be correct. And so each of these 36-hour simulations take roughly 1.5 hours to run using high performance computing course on the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences high performance computing network to help us essentially visualize tomorrow's flooding today via hydrodynamic modeling. Now, as we take these data, I've showed a couple of these visualizations in the past. It's kind of helpful to see how your points are geographic information systems. So those points are directly translated using the Larchmont Crescent area of Norfolk, just to kind of give you an idea of where these points are and how they're translated and compared with a model that has kind of geospatial measurements. So we kind of translate those to self-center points of each of these models. In this case, you can see that the models over time have kind of changed in terms of relative resolution, but we turn that into a metric we call this mean horizontal distance deviation, showing where the individual points as observed points collected by volunteers using the Sea Level Rise app help us kind of provide some context into the forecasts that are provided in advance with these 36-hour flood predictions. Now, in past years, you can see that there's a variety of different levels of engagement that have been involved. In the inaugural years before Catch the King, there's just a handful of ourselves that were helping collect data using this app. And once the second edition, I guess, the app came out in 2017, in preparation for our inaugural year with Catch the King, we had a large number of individuals helping us collect data. And some of these numbers started to wane a little bit during the pandemic out of interest of safety. And we were not actively recruiting during those times, but we're really excited to see what information you guys collect and help us verify in different places what these conditions are, as the app has been around for over a decade now. Now, of course, it's important to keep in mind these are time-dependent models. So in each of these instances, you'll see water levels increasing, and of course, we're comparing them to the next nearest water elevation during each of the hourly outputs of the Tidewatch model. So as you kind of zoom into some of these different areas, looking, for example, at the 2020 map, you can kind of zoom into the different places and see where all these individual points are. We also cross-reference them with images that are uploaded to our King Tide pages on Facebook, and in addition to the pictures that are taken within the Rise app. And they give us some context into exactly how much inundation happens in each of these places. And we can also, from a transparency perspective, allow people to kind of make measurements for themselves and see, well, what was the predicted maximum by the model versus what was actually observed by individuals that were collecting data with the Sea Level Rise app King event. And so we do this with all the individual points that are collected, not just those collected at specific sites. And so one of the biggest elements that I kind of harp on each year is that this hydrologic correction kind of more or less evaluates the understanding that elevation assumptions are important for flood forecast modeling. As you know, it is a physics-based model, so volume displacement is important. So if there are areas that are missing from these models, for example, a lot of aerial surveys or how we infer what these elevation assumptions are for these predicted models. And in some cases, you'll see that, basically this bridge here along Shore Drive, not far from where we are here on Virginia Beach, we've kind of used this as an example in the past where we fixed our model to kind of correct that there is inundation happening in these spaces. Also, even small conduits for fluid flow, like a culvert, can be missing from the model. And so as we're able to collaborate with localities like the city of Norfolk and their open database, showed us that we were missing some conduits underneath the roadway that actually heavily transport water from one place to another. And even just in the aerial survey data, you can see that the ground is dark. Obviously, it's pretty frequently inundated as hydrophytic vegetation there. So if you're looking at like the U.S. Army Corps guide for what a wetland is versus not, you can already kind of identify that there should be water there. But from a mathematical standpoint, this is what we use your data to help us identify. When there's points that are really far away from where the model has predicted water, we kind of wonder why it's about 480 feet from our nearest prediction for water. And that helps us quickly go through and correct these things in the model. So that way we're not waiting for a catastrophic hurricane to actually show us where there's inadequacies in the elevation assumptions of our hydrologic predictions. We can make those changes just using tidal data so that these models are as accurate as possible when the real disastrous events come. And so with that, in conclusion, we collected a lot of data this year in 2024. We've kind of done this through aerial surveys and drone surveys that have kind of helped us verify some of the high water marks in certain different locations. I kind of go out and collect data, not just with that, but also with different types of survey equipment each year. This year I was in the county of Gloucester. In 2024, we found that with all of those 22,000 high water marks, that the forecasts that were provided for tidal inundation were within about 1.04 inches on the vertical scale. On the horizontal scale, using those mean horizontal distance deviations, is approximately 18.2 feet using those 22,000 points. Some of them varied by less than 3 to 5 feet, which is about the size of 1 pixel in our hydrodynamic model. Some of these vary by much more than that, and so that's where we kind of focus our interest to see, based on the new data that you're collecting. We've had, for the first time, some data collected in certain areas of the Eastern Shore and parts of the Potomac River Basin that we're now able to go in there and start to identify, using hydrologic correction, where some of these places that might not be correct based on the LiDAR data that we've used as our backbone elevation assumptions for the model. In addition to this, of course, we've also effectively crowdsourced that hydro correction that I was talking about, and of course, engaging the public in a lot of these different ways. These aerial surveys has helped us kind of provide some additional verification, so we can see from these aerial surveys, in addition to the points on the ground, specifically what is helping us verify our models in different ways. And so with that, last year we used this year-round. It was the first time we produced a tidal flooding calendar for the full year rather than just the fall months. And so we will be debuting this Virginia tidal flooding calendar for 2025 this year, which does reveal that the days for Catch the King this year are the second weekend of October, I believe from the 10th to the 12th. So we're excited to announce that Catch the King this year will be those days in October. And we're also really excited to share this with you. We usually don't share it super early in the year because there's not a lot of tidal inundation the first few months out of the year. Most of the flooding that we do experience during these types of years are from nor'easter and persistent rainfall and constant wind direction, causing setup of water and causing a seiche in Chesapeake Bay. So with that, thank you very much all for your attention, and for many of our volunteers, along with our volunteer coordinators, for this event possible. Thank you.
I would be remiss with this beautiful slide up to not thank the many, many sponsors who support Catch the King and the Wetlands Watch work. As Derek mentioned a couple slides back, this app and this program comes to Virginia for free in terms of volunteer support. But this is technology, and this is staff time, and Wetlands Watch and the partners like VIMS and Old Dominion University who work with us on this. This is staff time, and we're investing all of that in our community to bring to Virginia. So I want to give just a quick extra special shout out to, because some of our sponsors have very much. But those funders this year include the Environmental Defense Fund, the Virginia Lakes and Watersheds Association, AECOM, the Blocker Foundation, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. There was a collage of partners up on the screen when I was talking, so I know that many of our partners offer their time for support us through this. And we really could not do it without you guys. So huge, huge thank you to all of our funders and our volunteers. So let's keep this program going. Thank you guys so much. Next up, we're going to bring Margie and Alyssa to the front. And I am going to switch.
I see some of you that have measured them up. How many of you measured for this? I saw the Girl Scouts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys want to do that.
Fabulous. Oh, what? How do we do it?
So this, your mic is.
Okay, because I move around a lot.
I would use either the mouse.
Okay, now I apologize about my voice today. I'm recovering from a cold, so it's sort of sounding a little weak. I can't do my big mom voice. But first, I want to thank everybody that came out and participated and helped us. This was truly a partnership that was enabled by Wetlands Watch from the start, because we would have never been able to measure the muck without Catch the King. And so we like to call it, we're measuring the muck while catching the king. And we have been doing this now for the entire time. And we sort of conceptually, the entire time that Catch the King has been ongoing, so has Measure the Muck. And the project sort of initiated because as Skip and I and our, at the time, young kids would go around and beta test that phone app. And at the time I was on the Scientific and Technical Advisory Committee of the Chesapeake Bay program. And they're trying to restore the bay and establishing the loading allowances for the bay. And we'd go out and we'd look at things like this. And I knew that wasn't counting toward the load. And we study harmful algal blooms a lot in my lab. And we knew this is a load that wasn't being counted that could be causing really bad impacts for the bay. It's evolved every year since the time, but I love this picture because the for sale sign, and there's so much wrong in there. There's a recycling bin, but that was actually full of trash. And then the trash bins, and actually at this site, I watched someone come out of the house with a bag of trash. They walked out, looked at the floodwater, turned around, started walking back into the house, and then turned around, threw the trash into the water. And so this is happening a lot. And so that was the motivation for this project. And once Catch the King started, we knew we could get enough volunteers to collect synoptic samples, all within an hour of high tide, all at once, and get like 150 to 200 samples to have a statistically robust measurement of a nutrient load. And then we had Derek calculating the water volume so we could calculate a load from those concentrations we measured and the volumes he provided. This is a figure that a colleague of mine at ODU made, Tal Ezer, and it's the hours spent, hours per year spent 1 foot above mean high or high water. And this is defined as impactful flooding in Norfolk, okay? And you can see 2024 was a record year, yay! And with sea level rise, this rate of increase in sea level, or these hours spent above, only increasing. So it's really of concern because a previous student of mine was able to calculate that the load estimate scales with the amount of flooding. Go figure. Okay, so this is something that really has to be included in the restoration. So what we needed to do is to make this load estimate is we needed to know the condition of the estuary before the flooding happened. Then the floodwater comes out of the landscape, sits there, marinates for a while, and then brings its load back into the estuary. Okay, and then this is just pictures again showing, the areas that flood. We're not necessarily cleaning up before it floods, so everything is going into the water. And we need to know that condition of the estuary prior to the flooding, the concentration of material in the floodwater, and the volume of the floodwaters. And then it's really simple math. I love that. And so this is just a figure showing areas that flood in Norfolk at a certain amount. I just plugged this into Titan, and then just showing some of those land uses that we're getting flooding in. And our dog posed for the one there. But we picked it up before the floodwater got there. But there are dog parks in Norfolk and other. And so, and then people are coming in contact with the water. And you're going to hear Alyssa talk about the results. Enterococcus in the floodwater, and Enterococcus is a fecal indicator. And I'll steal her thunder a little, and it's loaded. We're actually, so that swimmer there swimming in the floodwaters in the lower left, don't do that. That's gross. Okay, and then this is a figure similar to what Gabby showed earlier, and it's just showing we had record flooding in 2024, both in September and October. And I engaged an undergraduate class of mine that is doing classroom-based undergraduate research. And with them, Skip and I went out and collected floodwaters nearly every day it flooded. I didn't know what he was doing off. Now I know from those videos. So it just shows the times it flooded, and the red line is when we have it. But so we've been able to engage the classes, and more students are really interested in this project. And now I'm going to hand it off to Alyssa. We're actually, one other thing I'll add, we're trying to, in the future, we've been lucky, we've had support from HRSD in the past, and at present we have funding from the Blocker Foundation, and they've really helped us expand the program. And we're hoping in the future to add medical students. The ODU just merged with EVMS, and they have medical researchers that want to come out with us. So we're hoping to start to get an idea of the public health impacts from contact with floodwaters. So we're really excited if we can make that happen in the coming years. So now I'll turn it over to Alyssa. Shut up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Bucci. I'm a master's student in margin lab at Old Dominion. I have experienced 2 Catch the King, Measure the Muck events now, and last year was the first time that I had a hand in organizing them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how many people came out last year, what we did, how much we sampled, and some of our initial results. The rest. So we sampled during 2 big citizen science events last year in September and October. So during the wet run and during the big Catch the King weekend. We collected a record number of samples for Measure the Muck in September. So we collected these in the Lafayette River in the eastern branch of the Elizabeth. So those main rivers that are running through the city of Norfolk. 47 people came out and collected 282 floodwater samples. That's like 4 times the amount we collected last year and the most we've ever collected at one time through Measure the Muck. So thank you to all of you who came out and helped us do that. And of those 282 samples, 82% of them had fecal bacteria concentrations that were higher than the recreational safe contact. That's huge. That means that any floodwater you see in your neighborhood, there's a really good chance that it's not safe to touch. So if you see any kids playing in it, people walking through it, tell them to stay out of it because it's really gross. And this map in the background here shows there's a little red pin for every place that a sample was. Another really exciting thing that happened with Measure the Muck this year is we pioneered a new data collection application. So it was a web-based data collection specifically for collecting water quality data. So users dropped pins around the city wherever they were collecting, and they gave us a lot of such as like, what is the land use in the area that you're collecting your sample? Or where is the water coming from? Is it coming up through the storm drain or going like directly over the riverbank? And that information is really helpful for my research where I'm looking at the correlation between land use and water quality. So are there more nutrients in grass or pavement or dog parks like Margie mentioned? So all of that information you've been collecting is going to be really helpful for our research. And you guys also sent us a lot of that using the new tool. We were able to see exactly where those photos are taken. So even though I couldn't be everywhere it floods in that 1 hour, I can see all the photos that you sent in. So thank you for that. In October, the big exciting event for Measure the Muck was expanding up to the Gloucester Point area for the first. So previously we've always sampled in Norfolk, which is really urban, but we're curious about what does the water quality look like in areas with different types of environments. So expanding up to Gloucester Point through some of our collaboration with some of our partners at VIMS, we were able to sample in rural areas for the first time. And you can see on the map here, all of the places where we sampled. We collected 260 samples, which is pretty close to 82. We had 53 volunteers come out across all of the areas who were collecting Measure the Muck samples while they were catching the king. And 53% of those samples we collected in October were over the recreational safe contact limit for bacteria. So to wrap up here, I just have some photos that were collected in October. These are photos from October in Norfolk. And on the next slide here, we have some from the areas around Gloucester Point. So you can see we sampled in Poquoson, we sampled along the York River, and we sampled some in Mojack Bay also. So that's all I have, and I can turn it back to Gabby.
Is the Virginia Department of Health goes around after storms and checks. And that's what they base their beach closure. There's no such thing for floodwater. And when we did some extra things with the class measuring the Ettrick River, after the flooding in September, floated with enterococcus. So don't go swim in the river either after. But there's no warning system in place.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. In addition to these wonderful, amazing partners of Catch the King, they also tolerate me running Catch the King coordination once every week, close to Catch the King, every other week earlier on in the season. So I also want to give them a huge their time to sit behind the scenes and sit on a Zoom call and actually work together to figure out how are we going to run it this year. How do we engage volunteers in new places? So there's a lot more happening behind the scenes with these partners. Just to give you a glimpse that there's a lot of inner workings happening behind just the Catch the King. So thank you guys. One more big round of applause for our partner. Thank you. And up next, I'm going to toss it over to Josie to, we're going to go around the room, and we've talked to a few people beforehand that want to speak on their experience in Catch the King. Like I said, the story is best told from the volunteers. This mic is giving a little bit of a trouble. If it keeps doing it, we'll switch to the other one maybe. So Josie's going to introduce them one by one. Joe is up first. Joe Barnes, I see you back. Okay, so just make sure you're right. I didn't see you when you came. It's not here. So we're just going to go down the line, and Josie will take over.
All right, hi. As Gabby said, for the first person, we're going to have you, Joe, start. His name is Joe Barnes, and he is associated with the and ODU, and I'll let him talk a little bit about his projects. Come on up. I'll just hand off the mic to you. I would stand here. It does seem to do better if you're directly in between. Here you are.
Thank you.
I would just hold her.
Yeah. Test, test, test.
All right. Hi, everyone. Bear with me while I read off my script, but thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Joseph Barnes, and I am the Marine Debris Project Coordinator at Old Dominion University. And that Marine Debris Project is funded by National Sea Grant and is a joint project between ODU and Virginia Sea Grant with support from advisory partners, the Coastal Zone Management Program, Clean Virginia Waterways, and Elizabeth River Project. Catch the King was a brand new event for me to learn about and jump into, but it coincided so well with my team's work at ODU that I was excited to help out. Our ODU project helps foster collaborations and partnerships between academics, nonprofits, businesses, and government agencies to raise awareness about and provide resources to address local marine debris problems. Marine debris, if you are not aware, is just any man-made object that ends up in the water when it's not supposed to be there. Things like plastic trash, fishing gear, crumbling piers and pilings, and even abandoned and derelict vessels. There's been a lot of research and work done to uncover the story of marine debris in the Elizabeth River, which runs through Norfolk, where I work, as Alyssa pointed out on that map so helpfully. Thank you. There's been a lot of work to uncover the story in the Elizabeth River, with a lot of thanks and credit to Dr. Robin Dunbar, a local educator and advocate for the river. She talks to over 30 stakeholders across different sectors and communities, nonprofits, port authorities, governments, fishermen, and discovered that everyone is doing their part to clean up marine debris, and no one blames any other party for the debris. What causes marine debris pileups are natural occurrences, including storm surges, stormwater runoff, and full moon and high tide cycles. We know marine debris is out in the water, but anytime the water rises onto the land, it concentrates us in closer contact with it. And that is the project's marine debris activity, or how the Marine Debris Project connects to Catch the King. I focused on one area as a tide captain last year at the Norfolk kayak launch, and as part of Catch the King, our project hosted a trash cleanup in the same area along the water at low tide to see the trash that had been washed ashore during the king tide. We also used this event as an opportunity to partner with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation to highlight a green infrastructure project that helps retain and filter stormwater in Lafayette Park. And this Water Wellness Watch, as it was called, combining all these events, helps draw attention to the intersectionalities of community shoreline work. Sea level rise is making these king tides higher, which puts us into closer contact with marine debris. But there are natural-based solutions and community actions we can take to mitigate these effects. Marine debris and high tides are intrinsically linked, so by connecting the two topics through Catch the King, our volunteers left better aware of these threats, and education makes our communities more resilient. Thank you to all of the volunteers here tonight, and thank you to Wetlands Watch for fostering these collaborations.
Thank you so much, Joe. All right, next on our list, we have Barbara Bonaire, I hope I said your last name right. Did I? Bonaire? Bonaire? Bonaire. It's French. Can't do that accent. But she is a part of the Girl Scouts and has some Scouts with her, I think. Little chat. So I will pass the mic to Barbara.
I have 4 scouts that wanted to talk about their experience with Catch the King, and I really love this because it's a place where science and the community, girls, come on front here. Science and the community kind of get together, so that's kind of fun. Anyway, I'm gonna let the girls introduce themselves, and here you go. Oh, look, see, hands are full.
Hi, I'm Ruby. I'm from Troop 444 and we are on the screen, so we're basically famous. But we did Catch the King Tide and Measure the Muck this year, and it was really informative, but I was also surprised by how fun it was. We all got in the car, we went down to Harbor Park samples, and it was just amazing. I learned about all the bacteria in the water, and Ella she did Catch the King Tide for us. It's so awesome that we can be a part of something in our community. It was really cool how we could go to the center on Colley Avenue to the Ryan Resilience Lab and collect all these samples. But it really does bring up the issue that this is a real thing in our community and that we're helping to, make it better. I'm Reagan and I'm in Troop 505 and I did Catch the King and Measure the Muck this year. And I've also done it in previous years, but I really enjoyed getting to learn more about the environment and tidal flooding in general and just how big of an impact it has on our community.
Hello, my name is Kenley. I'm from Troop 505. I've been doing Catch the King Tide since 6th grade, and learning about this really showed me the impact that we have on our environment and how to protect it, and also showed how much I love the environment and has really sparked my interest in living shorelines, and hopefully I'll be doing that for my silver project this year.
You guys, this is our future. This is so exciting. So thank you, girls.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so next we have some Christopher University students. Their professor, Rob Atkinson, are you here? Is he not here? Okay, so students are here for him, so I'll pass the mic off to his students, and if you guys want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Caroline Dillard, and we're with a program called Fear to Hope at Christopher Newport University, which works with or collaborates with schools in the Hampton area to get high school students involved in research projects connected to climate change and wetlands. So as part of that program, we take students out on a field trip to a salt marsh, and that's where we have implemented Catch the King, which Jaden will explain.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaden. I was the Catch the King coordinating outings for Christopher Newport students and for Fear to Hope. And we were able to go out to the salt marsh, which is called Ragged Island. It's the south end of James River Bridge. James River Bridge, yeah. And we were able to go out 3 times, 2 times during the official event, and 1 time during the November King Tide. And when we took the students out for the November one, the water got so high that the trail completely disappeared. So at the worst, you could just see your foot through the water, or at the best. And then at its worst, it was probably 3 to 3.5 feet above the bank, and probably was about right here to my upper thigh. And we got to get the students to experience that, and they will get to take the experience and make scientific posters on it, which they will then present at the Fear to Hope Symposium, which is April 22nd on Earth Day. So please, you guys are welcome to come. And Catch the King gave us the opportunity to fulfill some of the objectives of Fear to Hope, which is kind of getting the students out there to see and also show them that they can actually do things to help with environmental concerns. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much. We have had so much school involvement this year, truly, in Catch the King, and it just makes us so excited for where Catch the King can go in the future. All right, so for next, we have another group of students that we're going to have speak, but the professor is here this evening. Professor Fernando Rodriguez from William and Mary, the back. He works at the William and Mary Institute, Virginia, and has a political ecology and environmental justice class that he decided to involve Catch. I'll have you come talk.
Hello, good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am Fernando Rodriguez, and I teach a class on environmental justice. And we were very lucky to be able to integrate Catch the King as part of the citizen science model of the class. It was very instructive for the students. We have one of the students that we'll be hearing about from her experience. It was approximately 20 to 25 students who were able to participate, and this is fantastic because it's giving me all these ideas for how we can incorporate it even better and bigger for next year. And we're also very happily in a collaboration now also with the GIS lab at the Institute for Integrated Conservation, where we are actively thinking about how to make these maps be more accessible to the volunteers and to help us also identify areas of priority from an environmental justice perspective. Thank you very much for everything. And now we're going to have Kaylee Bartlett, who was one of the students in the class, and she'll be sharing about her experience.
In classic William and Mary student fashion, I may have overachieved a little bit in having to, or deciding that I was going to make a presentation, but I'll just be speaking for the entire environmental justice class on how much we enjoyed this experience. So we had quite, how do I just do the mouse? Okay. So we split up into a couple of teams, and we went out to College Creek and took a couple of cars down to Yorktown and Gloucester Point. And this experience was really interesting because as William and Mary students, we kind of exist in a little bit of a bubble. Not a lot of us get down to like Newport or Hampton. So this was a super great experience to get involved in the community. And we also feel that as students studying environmental justice and environmental policy, it can be hard to apply that. You talk in a classroom, you look at slides, you talk about how can we make this better, but we don't really have any on the ground experience with it. So getting out of the classroom was super educational. We were able to think critically about how we can take this experience and apply it at jobs that we work at in the future, because a lot of us are seniors taking this class. And it opened our eyes to lanes that are outside of the federal and corporate world, because it's a running joke in environmental policy that the only options moving forward are to sell your soul to big oil. It's a little sentence there. Or, work for the federal government, which is a little bit dicey right now. So we're just really thankful to Wetlands Watch and to Gabby and Josie for coming out and showing us that there's a lot that you can do with environmental justice and with preserving communities, preserving the nature, and how that can all connect together and just become a really fulfilling experience. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, as Josie said, we had just an absolutely incredible engagement from schools this year. Josie did a fantastic job with outreach, going to all across the coastal area, telling them about Catch the King and getting them excited. And after we engaged with the William and Mary students, Fernando looked at me and said, "Our work is not done." So excited. So we will have some cool GIS stuff coming out this year, working with those and GIS students. So more to come on that. I think next. Oh, also, To save time, I was gonna give out goodie bags for everyone who just spoke, including the adults in the group. You know, there's students that are adults too, but I've got goodie bags for everyone, but I'm gonna save that to the end. So if you just spoke and came up here, don't leave without. It's okay. Thanks.
Oh, wait, let me get back to the presentation. You got it?
You got it.
Okay, and you said arrows? Okay, awesome. Well, hi, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the left corner of the room, right-hand side for you guys. So this year, we had Catch the King, Waves of Tomorrow, an artist competition. Oh, good, they work. So a little bit about the theme of this competition. As you guys have heard from most of our presentations, our work is very, very data-driven. But data is not always well received from different audiences. And so this year, as my contribution to Catch the King and Wetlands Watch, I created an arts contest for and college-age students all over coastal Virginia to be able to describe their experience with sea level rise and coastal flooding in an artistic way. And when I say artistic, that's not just visual art. As you guys heard as we've had these presentations, scientific poster data is to write, read, or talk about. So therefore, we also had a writing competition. So this is a arts and writing contest. You have the visual work displayed over here. One of our written pieces is actually displayed as well. Our winners will be displayed on our website for our written and visual. And of course, the other categories are visual and written. We have a $500 cash prize for our visual arts category and a $100 cash prize plus swag for both for our written category plus the publication of the site. As well as the fact, so since this is the first year of this competition, we did not have enough entries for the college competitive. So instead of having a college winner this year, we have decided to pivot. We will be having a popular vote that will be decided via our website where you can go and pick the people's choice of what you guys think is the best piece, which will have a $250 prize, right? 250? Yep. And then a $250 prize will be now going to a runner-up in the arts category as well. So that is how we are allocating that, but there will be future years. So hopefully we can get there. But that is just a little bit of background on this arts competition you see today. And so now I'm going to get into a little bit of our jurors for this competition because we are scientists over here, not exactly the most equipped to judge art, so we had to look around for some friends. Our first friend is Kendra Green. She is the executive director of the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation in the heart of Norfolk, Virginia. She has a BA from Virginia Wesleyan University and an FFA in poetry from Queen's University of Charlotte, so both environmental and writing world. So she served as one of our guest jurors for our written category. Next, I'm about to say, is Kendra here? Oh, Kendra's here. Yay! Kendra, please say hi. So as I announce the jurors that are here, if you are here, again, please grab a swag bag, but also wave and say hi when I say your name. Oh, I'm so glad you have to come, Kendra. Yay! Well, that's Kendra. All right, and then next we have Clayton Singleton. He is not here. If this name sounds familiar to you, it's because he's a pretty well-known fine artist and painter here in the state of Virginia. This is a website for his artwork, but he's also a retired arts teacher from Ocean Lakes High School. So it was really exciting to have him on our jury board because not only his background in art, but his background in working with kids in the community. So that's Clayton. So little applause for him, even though he's not here. Next, we have Kendall Chandler. Is she here? Don't think so. Okay, so Kendall Chandler, she works as the Student Community Program at the Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art, because of course you need some Virginia Museum people on the list for an arts competition. So she was one of our museum judges, and she did a fantastic job. Wish she could be here tonight, but still a little applause for her as well. Next, she is also not here, but Maho Delagdio, I think that's it, Delagdio. She works as a creative writing teacher at James Madison. So that is kind of a play on our poetry. Our writing contest was short story writing and poetry writing. So we wanted a representation not just of poets, but of some fictional writers for just creative writing as well. So that was my hope. So I'll give her a little round of applause as well. Next is Arden Shostak. He works as the exhibitions and residencies coordinator at VisArts in Virginia. So another part of this was getting a jury that was geographically spread. We didn't want everyone from Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Newport News, Williamsburg. We wanted all over Virginia because the students' work was from all over Virginia. So nice to have a Richmond representative. He's here tonight. Say hi, Arden. And so thank you as well for having another nice established arts museum be one of our jurors. So thank you to VisArts as well, and for providing these podiums that you see, these white podiums that was donated by VisArts for this event. So thank you for making this exhibition a reality. And then last but certainly not least, Skip Stiles, which as you guys have heard is the founder of Wetlands Watch. He is right there in the back and we can give him a round of applause, very well much deserved. But he served as our Wetlands Watch environmental justice advocacy background person on our jury panel. So Wetlands Watch was represented without bias, and we had a little bit of someone with an environmental background and an environmental conservation point of view. So that is the contest that we have created this year. I'm now going to pass it to MC to talk about winners. But thank you so much for making this arts competition a reality. It would not be without you all here. So thank you so much for creating this beautiful work and the beautiful work that's not here to show. It'll be online for you to see.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I think so. I've been sitting in the back and just marveling at this incredible work that this Catch the King idea has spurned and has kind of brought to life. It is incredible what you all are doing and what you're contributing to. I think that it's just, it's overwhelming, and I think that there's so much more that can be done, which I think is super exciting. All right, so I have the delightful honor of talking about the winners, of course, but we also have some really exciting news to share about this contest and its future and longevity at the organization. As Josie has said, this is really Josie's idea to bridge art and Catch the King. And we really didn't know how it was going to work. And I think that you all can see here today and then view online that it worked tremendously well. There is an interest to bridge the science and arts community that many of you well, but I think that there's a desire to connect with the artistic side of kind of the emotional reality of climate change and sea level rise. So we know that it feels a specific way. We're scared, we're nervous about it, and the best way to work through those feelings can often be through art. So this is a visual representation of the change that we're experiencing and the way that humans, we are responding to that change. So much more to come in this space with Wetlands Watch and our partners exploring how art can be manifested by this challenge and by our data that you all are collecting. So that's my kind of intro. I'm so thrilled and honored to talk about this contest. And it's actually a newly endowed contest. Yes, let's just applause for this wonderful moment. This contest is hereby the Jane Brinkley Thumm Memorial Arts Contest Award. And joining us today is a daughter of Mrs. Thumm, Kathy Thumm. If you could please raise your hand and be recognized. Thank you for being here. Yes, ma'am. Oh, excuse me. Oh, major faux pas. Thumm. Yes, ma'am. So this is an incredible opportunity to recognize an artist that has a long legacy and a an acclaim in our region, but it also is a beautiful recognition of a family coming together around a challenge and opportunity. So Miss Jane Brinkley Thumm is the mother of Virginia Thumm and Kathy Thumm, who's joined us today. And Virginia, you all may be familiar with her. She runs a fundraising consultant and is, as we really know her, married to Dave Mayfield, who is the founder of Catch the King. So here is the connection that we're celebrating today. Dave Mayfield was a reporter for the Virginian Pilot and cooked up this crazy idea with Skip and our partners at VIMS and Derek and others to launch the phone app, or to use the phone app to launch the citizen science data collection project that we're all contributing to today. So Dave actually surprised Virginia and Kathy with this honor and recognition. And with our snow day delay and rescheduling, they are unfortunately not able to join us, but are watching this video either live or in the future. And so I'm, sorry, Virginia, for mispronouncing your mom's dear name. But we are overwhelmed with gratitude that we get to use this name to honor this merging of interests and fields. So thank you, Kathy, for being here, and thank you, Dave, for honoring Virginia and Kathy's mom in this way. So who is Jane? A native of Norfolk, Virginia, Jane Brinkley Thumm was a celebrated local artist known for being adventurous in her choice of mediums and transcending many genres. From an early interest in art, she became truly prolific later in life, painting well into her 90s. She was perhaps best known for her paintings of the festival in Ghent and the 10th anniversary of Waterside, and for her depictions of family homes and compounds across Southern Virginia. She was also an art educator, teaching classes at the Norfolk Senior Center for several years. So not only an artist, but a teacher, and judging by all of the students that are participating in this event and the teachers of young people and older young people at the university level, I have to say this is a very full circle moment for Wetlands Watch and our partners. We are honored to continue Jane's legacy through this newly auspicious award and hope it will inspire young people to creatively engage in their communities as Jane did in hers, while raising awareness of the defining challenge of our modern history, sea level rise and climate change. Thank you, Kathy, for being here again. Okay, on to the good stuff. So as Josie explained, we are awarding 2 categories, visual, and we are going to start with visual. Now, this is a competition. You've been introduced to the jurors. They all made these selections through a selection process. And so we are celebrating that these students' art has risen above the rest. So I am very pleased to announce that the winner, drum roll, is Joshua Knight. Oh, he left. Yes. Joshua, come on up here. Come on up here. Joshua, congratulations. So tell us a little bit about this this piece, if you want to. No pressure.
Yeah, I'll speak about it a little bit.
Come
I
this way
didn't
and turn.
expect this.
Mhm.
Hi everybody. Can I hold this? My piece is about it's supposed to be set in the far future with the Chesapeake Bay flooding taking back over residential neighborhoods. I chose the heron because it's often used to symbolize the Chesapeake And part of the prompt was about the natural environment interacting with the local community. So I thought that would be interesting. And then in the background are, it's a wind farm because of I believe the Chesapeake Bay initiative for wind energy coming up in the future. I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful. Okay. Incredible. And okay, and if you haven't viewed this, you have to come over here and look at this incredible detail. It is truly remarkable and beautiful. So congratulations. Okay, and so we are going to, as Josie described, we're actually going to award runners up because the college category was not competitive enough. And so we had such an amazing number of submissions. We are pleased to announce that we have a runner-up, and it is an amazing photograph called Hold the Line by Charles Schmidt. So Charles is not here tonight, but this photograph was taken using a drone. And if you can check it out online in the QR code on the online gallery, please take a close look because this photograph displays the complex intersection of a shoreline that is moving landward. And it shows actually a tree that is dying because of the saltwater intrusion. And it's taking over the tree, and you can see the edge of the shoreline moving landward, which is the challenge that's facing all of us. How do we live with the reality of our shorelines shifting so dramatically and so physically in our landscape into the future? This was an incredible photograph, and so we're so pleased that Charles gets to also receive an award. Congratulations, Charles. Okay, we are now, I think I'm safe. Okay, we are now going to be presenting the only award for the written category. We had a lot of submissions for written arts, and of course the processing of, again, this challenge that we're facing with sea level rise and climate change is one that we're also doing with word. And so this is a way to honor the work that the kids in our community are doing to process this big challenge. So without further ado, the winner of the written category is Levi Rogero, short story. This short story, Cascades Hunt, is available for you all to read online. And Levi is from Jamestown High School, and he's not in attendance today, but we'll be mailing his stuff to him. And congratulations to Levi. Okay. All right, so as Josie mentioned, we're doing something new. This is all new, so I guess it's not different, but we're going to actually have a public vote for the visual arts category of Catch the King's award, now the inaugural Jane Brinkley Thumm Award. So we're going to do this, and so you all are going to be able to participate in this, and we're actually going to WHRV tomorrow on the radio and through WHRO written from Catherine Hafner, a local reporter, and she's going to include a link to the contest online. So the gallery online is going to be shared with everyone who reads the WHRO news. So pretty exciting stuff. And the whole public will get to vote on the submission that they like best. And then that winner will also receive an award. So pretty cool. The logistics on this, I could be getting this wrong, so I'm just going to try my best. We are going to make the voting form available after this event is over. So you'll go home and you'll be refreshed when you're taking a look and making your online submission. So look for an email coming out from us with a link to vote. And you can send it to whoever you want, make it go viral.
Join the Catch the King newsletter yet, come see me before you I show you the right place. That's where we're
Great. Okay. All right. And this is for all submitted work, written and visual, and it's going to be published on our website. Now, the date for Catch the King is October 10th and 11th and 12th. Okay. So save the date, put it on your calendars right now. Everybody uses their phone now, so save it. And then just to close out the arts contest, thank you to all the students who participated, who sent submissions. You've made this first inaugural year very, very special, and look forward to next year when we continue, thanks to the 5-year generous commitment from the Mayfield Thumm family, the Jane Brinkley Thumm Award. Thank you, everybody.
I'm just going to say one last thing about the arts contest before we fully close it out. I just wanted to say that creating these visual arts pieces in all of the mediums, I asked for any mixed media, and you guys gave me that. I mean, just here have driftwood pieces, trash pieces, sculpture pieces, painting pieces, drawing pieces, written pieces, oh my, all of it. And that's just so exciting. And being able to communicate these issues in this visual way and in a more artistic writing way, that is what creates empathy. That is that emotional connection that MC was talking about earlier with our audiences that invokes change. Empathy is enough to want to stand up and do something about it yourself. Sympathy is enough to care and hope somebody else does it. This is actually invoking empathy in the audience, invoking that change and creating that step within the community. And you guys are a part of that. And I feel so fulfilled to be involved in this. And thank you all so much. I'm going to grad school to be an environmental photojournalist and researcher. So I'm studying science communication. So this is what I'm going to go do. So I'm so happy and thankful to the Thumm family for painting a path for future students to do what I'm doing forever, and hope that more of us do in our everyday lives. So thank you.
All of this is to say, if you don't love collecting data, boy, do we have options for you this year. So without further ado, I know we've got about 5 minutes left. You guys have been sitting for a while. We're going to get you out in just a couple of minutes. I figured some folks in the room might be here because they've never done Catch the King before. Oh, it is also raining outside, so maybe you do want to stay inside with me. Ha 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 ha. We're going to give you a little sneak peek on what's going on Catch the King 2025, and it's also a really exciting year for Wetlands Watch. So Derek already announced, so this is the King Tide calendar that Derek produces each public-facing tool that we use with our volunteers. I love how these mics are just really not having it today. We send this out. This is a public resource. This just demonstrates the upcoming high water events as well as the Catch the King dates. So again, hadn't heard it enough. October 10th through 12th this year is our Catch the King event. And we will have a wet run again in September. Say that 10 times fast. That is kind of our practice run for Catch the King, but some folks do have conflicts in the October. This is kind of around homecoming for some colleges and high schools. So we do offer another mapping event in September, which again, not able to participate in October. We are expecting high water in September, and we would love for you to go out and collect data. We do all that fun stuff and through our newsletter. 2025 goals. I would be remiss not to talk about what we're trying to accomplish here. There's at this point so many years packed full of data, but we are continuously expanding geographically, especially. We've been a very Hampton Roads based program for a long time, but I'm very pleased with the work, especially the partnership of the Nature Conservancy. I'm not sure if they're on or they might see this later, but the Nature Conservancy out on the Eastern Shore hosted a training event for us. This is the first time that we've had this robust of an effort. Very unique type of flooding issues out there, largely agricultural dominant. And so we have sea level rise. We're also stretching up to Northern Virginia. So folks who live up towards the Alexandria area, we have a tide captain in Alexandria now that's trained up to provide training to volunteers in Northern Virginia. The maps that are produced in these data systems are great ways for you as a volunteer to check out and see where you might be helped, where your efforts might be best directed. And of course, you can reach out to us if you need an idea. But lots of maps and data sources out there for you to check on to prioritize your data collection. More tide captains is always helpful. We've talked about tide captains multiple times, but we rely on these kind of regional leaders to help us recruit and train volunteers across the state of Virginia. Catch the King on the Wetlands Watch side, we're usually and that team of 2 has to travel as far as we can to get to volunteers. So we rely on this kind of upper level leadership through our tide captains to help us recruit and train volunteers. If that sounds like you, if you would like a leadership position in Catch the King and you want to volunteer your time, you have a network of people who might be interested in this program, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to get you trained up as a tide captain. We're also, as I mentioned, we're collaborating with state and local governments to figure out more ways in which the data can be useful. So if that's you, if you're an engineer, you're a stormwater person, you're a flood resilience planner, or you know someone who might be able to utilize this data, we would love to share it and get more ideas for how this Catch the King data can be useful. And then, of course, documenting other high water and rainfall flood events. We do big Catch the King in October. Flood events happen all year, whether it's rainfall or tidal. So we're trying to build more of those opportunities into our Catch the King program so that you have more opportunities to go. A couple of partnership projects that I just want to highlight. Of course, we're going to continue so many fun things that we've had going on already. So we've talked a little bit about the William and Mary and Christopher Newport partnerships. So thank you to the students who spoke about those. In North Carolina, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration funded our expansion into North Carolina for the 2023 Catch the King season, and we kept up those relationships as best we could in 2024. And we actually now have established essentially a tide captain in North Carolina who's out Catch the King data collection in the Beaufort kind of down east area in the northernmost part of North Carolina. Very vulnerable, very high risk, lots of business infrastructure being impacted by sea level rise. So thank you to Coastal Carolina River Watch for taking on that role. We also, through that expansion work, were heard of all the way down in Georgia in the community called there's an HOA community that is sustainably certified through the Audubon Society. And they have stepped up to bring Catch the King to their community this year and get a community-wide working on documenting Catch the King, which is awesome. We're designing a really fun full day event with the Girl Scouts of the Colonial Coast. So Barbara, I see you. We are working with the Colonial Coast level regional coordinators to design this big day so Girl Scouts can and get excited for Catch the King. So we're going to have a full day event for that. We're going to continue working with Hampton Roads Planning District Commission as long as they'll have us to bring more volunteer capacity into their flood and flood sensor network. And then down here, we don't have a fancy logo for it yet, but this is just a very, very sneak preview into something we're calling Tides That Bind. This is a developing project, very early stages. We're just scoping the idea around this, but on that conversation about bringing more people that aren't necessarily data-minded, but have a very emotional or just different kind of connection to responding to sea level rise. We're working on figuring out how we can transform our data into sound and potentially even music. And so we're calling that Tides That Bind. This is another brainchild of Mr. Dave Mayfield as well. And then one last video from Skip. He's rolling his eyes, I know
Sunny
he
day
is.
flooding. But looky here. Norfolk put this flood control structure in place, and it's working. It's working very well. That street there with what looks like about 4.5 feet of tide would have been completely inundated all the way out to the middle of that green space. So good work.
Good work, right? Keep the good work going. The reason why we're doing this and why we're capturing all of this data, we're partners statewide, engaging sponsors in this work is because we want to get these adaptation solutions into the ground. We want that return on investment for all of the work that you guys are putting in to collect flood data across coastal Virginia. So we hope that more projects like this that save us from that sunny day, nuisance, high tide flooding, can go in and actually naturalize and build more resilience for our wetlands, which is really the Wetlands Watch, is to conserve wetlands. So just ending on a kind of high note and hopeful expectations
Sunny
for
day flooding.
the future. I also, this is a very bittersweet celebration because Josie's come to an end. We did buy cookies, so if you haven't gotten cookies, those are celebratory for Josie. I just want to thank her so much for her efforts. Again, the arts contest was just such a spectacular idea, merging what I think all of us kind of recognize as a well-deserved and much-needed direction for Catch the King to engage more of the public. So I want to give Josie just one big round of applause for all of her work and wishing her luck in grad school. And of course, the other side of that coin is that we're hiring for a Catch the King coordinator position public on wetlandswatch.org/work with us. I would love to work with you. I will continue to be kind of a director of this program. And so if you've got cool ideas and you want to take this program to new heights, I would love to hear from you. Applications are open now through March 14th. So get those applications in. They come straight to me. So I'm really excited to see what pool we have this year to keep this effort going. Last but most certainly not least, this is Wetlands Watch's 25th anniversary. Can we just get a little round of applause? I know y'all's hands are tired. We have all sorts of engagement opportunities on the schedule this year, so please keep in touch with us. Sign up for our newsletters. If you are not part of any of our newsletters yet, feel free to come up to us. We'll get you signed up. There are little organization cards. I think they probably made it inside. If they didn't, they're out on that table, hopefully not getting soaked, but I do have dry extras. We have cards that look just like this. If you're interested in engaging with us further, feel free to pick one of those up. We would love to celebrate with you this year for our 25th anniversary. And then, this is actually last but not least, I found this video digging up through the archives. Thank you, Derek, for having this archived on your YouTube channel. I just like to end with a really nice thing that makes you smile. This is a promotional video from 2019 that our partners developed with us. And this kind of gets at the essence and the spirit and kind of the livelihood that the folks bring to the team.
Hey baby, Elvis has left the building and headed for the coast. Why? Because it's the king tide and it's coming to a waterway near you, baby. Hampton Roads is experiencing the highest sea level rise on the East Coast. But that's all right, Mama. You can be a part of the solution. Come out to one of the King Tide data collection events, October 27th. King Tides happen when astronomical conditions align just right to create high tides that are about a foot higher than normal. Scientists need your data as they try to solve the problem. Learn more at whro.org/King Tide. Or join our group on Facebook. It's called Help Catch the King Tide. So don't be cruel. Come be a part of the King Tide.
I'm so glad I found that. So good. So good. I think we should get that video and just add the new dates to it. Just, yeah. Oh yeah, we also have, if you are new or you want information to go home with you about Catch the King, we have volunteer and tide captain little one-pagers. So if you want to know more about the role of a tide captain, you want to know more about the role of a volunteer, Ian Blair is in the back of the room holding those. So feel free to see him or wherever he places and pick up those pieces of paper on your way out. That went by way too fast and I'm getting kind of sad now because I don't want to see you guys go, but thank you so much for coming, braving the rain. Feel free to hang out in here for a few minutes or, you know, go for it and get wet. But thank you so much for coming all the way down to Virginia Beach. I know this is a new location. I'm just so excited to celebrate with you. Thank you very much. Be safe going home and help us catch the king this year.